Let us find ourselves in a small village as the day draws to its close, as the sun lowers behind the fields and the forest, casting long shadows across the rutted lanes and thatched roofs. This is a village, like thousands of others, scattered across the medieval countryside. A cluster of cottages and gardens, a church with its stone tower, fields stretching away in all directions. There is nothing grand or remarkable here, just the quiet rhythm of ordinary lives, the gentle patterns of work and rest that have sustained communities like this for generations. We can simply wander through these final hours of daylight, observing without urgency, letting the peace of evening settle around us. The village sits in a shallow valley, protected from the worst winds, close to a stream that provides water year-round. The cottages are built of timber frames filled with wattle and daub, their walls painted white or left the natural colour of clay and straw. The roofs are thick thatch, golden brown, weathered by rain and sun, steep-pitched to shed water. Smoke rises from holes in several roofs, thin columns that drift and disperse in the still evening air. The fields around the village are divided into long strips, each family working several scattered pieces of land, planting wheat and rye, barley and oats, peas and beans. The crops are tall now, nearly ready for harvest, their heads heavy and golden, swaying gently when the breeze stirs. Between the fields run paths and boundaries, small streams and hedgerows where wild flowers bloom and birds nest. The landscape is patchwork and intimate, every corner known and named, worked by hands that know each stone and furrow. As we walk toward the village, we pass farmers making their way home from the fields, their day's labour complete. They move slowly, weary but satisfied, carrying tools over their shoulders, scythes and rakes, wooden forks. Their clothes are simple and worn, tunics and hose of rough wool or linen, stained with earth and sweat, patched and mended countless times. Their feet are sometimes bare, sometimes wrapped in strips of leather, tough and callous from walking these paths every day of their lives. A man leads along by a rope, the great beast plodding patiently, its work done for the day. The ox will be stabled in a small shelter attached to the cottage, bedded with straw, given hay and water, cared for as the valuable animal
it is. Without the ox, the heavy work of ploughing would be impossible. The animal is part of the household, known by name. Its needs attended to for the family's own comfort. The village lanes are narrow and unpaved, soft dirt worn into ruts by cartwheels and hooves and countless footsteps. Chickens scratch in the dust, pecking at seeds and insects, clucking softly to themselves. A pig roots in the undergrowth near one cottage, searching for acorns or anything edible. These animals roam freely during the day, but as evening comes, they are being called home, rounded up and penned for the night, safe from foxes and other predators. Children are playing near the village well, their voices bright in the quiet air. They run and chase, play games of tag and hide and seek, their energy still abundant despite the day's chores. A girl tends to a smaller child, holding his hand, keeping him from wandering too far. Their play is simple and imaginative, requiring no toys beyond sticks and stones, making castles in the dirt, telling stories they've heard from their elders. At the well, a woman draws water, lowering the wooden bucket on its rope. Hearing the splash as it hits the surface far below, she hauls it up, hand over hand, the rope rough against her palms, the bucket heavy and sloshing when it reaches the top. The water is cold and clear, tasting of stone and earth. She pours it into her own clay jug and turns for home, calling to her children as she passes, telling them not to stay out too long, that supper will be ready soon. The cottages are small and dark inside, most having only one or two rooms where all the family's life takes place. The floors are packed earth, covered with rushes or straw, replaced when they become too soiled. The walls are bare, except perhaps for a shelf holding a few precious items. A wooden cup, a clay bowl, a knife. Light comes from the doorway and from a small window covered with oiled cloth or wooden shutters, and from the fire that burns on the hearth.
The hearth is the centre of the home, a circle of stones in the middle of the floor or against one wall, where the fire burns all year round, providing warmth and light, a place to cook the family's food. The smoke rises and eventually finds its way out through the thatch, darkening the rafters with soot, filling the cottage with a haze that smells of wood and peat, of cooking and life. A woman kneels by the fire, stirring a pot suspended from an iron hook. The pot contains pottage, a thick soup of vegetables and grains, perhaps some herbs from the garden. maybe a bone if there is one, for flavour. This is the meal that will feed the family, the same meal they eat most evenings, varied only by what is available from the garden or the forest, what the season provides. She tastes it, adds a pinch of salt from the precious small store, stirs again. Bread is baking on the hearthstones, flat loaves of dark rye or barley, coarse and dense, the staff of life for these people. The smell of baking bread fills the cottage, warm and yeasty, mingling with the scent of the pottage and the wood smoke. When the bread is done, it will be broken and shared, dipped in the soup, eaten with the hands, satisfying and simple. The family begins to gather for the meal. The father enters, stooping through the low doorway, setting his tools carefully in the corner. He washes his hands and face in a basin, the water turning grey with the day's dirt. The children come tumbling in, called by their mother, their play reluctantly abandoned. They settle on stools or on the floor, waiting patiently, their hunger sharp and immediate. The meal is eaten in relative silence, the food itself the focus, the satisfaction of hunger the primary concern. There is some quiet talk, the father mentioning what needs to be done tomorrow, the mother reminding the children of their chores. The pottage is hot and filling, the bread chewy and nourishing. There is ale to drink, weak and slightly sour, but safe and familiar. The meal is not abundant, but it is enough, and there is gratitude in the simple act of eating together. The family unit complete and safe for another night. Outside, the light is fading rapidly now, the sun gone below the horizon, the sky turning from blue to violet to grey. The village is settling into evening routines, animals secured, doors closing, fires tended. From the church comes the sound of the bell, ringing for vespers, the evening prayer. The sound carries across the village and the fields, a reminder of the hours, a call to prayer for those who wish to attend. Some villagers make their way toward the church, a stone building that stands at the village centre, solid and permanent among the wooden cottages. The church is the one building made to last, its walls thick stone, its small windows of coloured glass, its roof of slate or tile. Inside, it is cool and dim, smelling of incense and old stone, candles flickering on the altar. The priest stands before the altar, his voice rising in Latin. The ancient prayers spoken every evening in churches across Christendom. The villagers stand or kneel, some following the prayers, some simply present in the space, letting the familiar rhythms wash over them. The service is not long, and when it ends, they file out quietly, exchanging soft greetings, making their way home through the gathering darkness. Back in the cottages, the evening continues its gentle progression toward night. Children are prepared for sleep, their faces and hands washed, their day clothes removed, simple shifts pulled on for sleeping. They climb into bed, often sharing a straw mattress with siblings, covered with wool blankets and sheepskins. Parents tuck them in, speak soft words, perhaps tell a brief story or recite a simple prayer. The children's eyes grow heavy, their breathing slows, and sleep comes easily after a day of fresh air and activity. The adults remain awake a while longer, tending to final tasks. A woman spins wool by firelight, the spindle dropping and rising in a rhythm as old as time, creating thread that will eventually become cloth. A man sharpens a tool, the whetstone rasping softly against the blade. These are quiet tasks, meditative, allowing the mind to rest while the hands work. The fire is banked for the night, the larger logs pushed together, ashes pulled over them to keep the embers alive until morning. The fire will never go out entirely if it can be helped, for starting a new fire is time-consuming and difficult. The glowing coals provide a small warmth and a faint light, a comfort in the darkness. The cottage grows darker as the last light fades from the sky. There are no candles to spare for ordinary evenings, no oil for lamps. The darkness is complete and natural, something to accept rather than fight. The family settles into their beds, straw rustling as they shift and arrange themselves, finding comfortable positions. Outside, the village is nearly silent. A dog barks once in the distance. An owl calls from the forest edge, a haunting sound that speaks of the wild world beyond the village boundaries. The stream murmurs quietly, always flowing, always present. The night air is cool and fresh, carrying the scent of growing things, of earth and water, of wood smoke from dying fires. The sky above is vast and clear, filled with stars that shine with a brightness impossible to imagine in our own illuminated age. The Milky Way stretches overhead like a river of light, and individual stars stand out sharp and distinct. The constellations known by name and story, navigational aids and seasonal markers and sources of wonder. In their beds, the villagers drift towards sleep, their bodies tired from honest labour, their minds quiet and untroubled. They do not worry about distant places or future days. Their world is small and immediate, bounded by the fields they work and the people they know, by the rhythm of seasons and the requirements of survival. There is a simplicity to this life, a directness that brings its own kind of peace. Sleep comes naturally, as it always has for those who work with their bodies and live close to the earth. Breathing deepens and slows. Muscles relax. Consciousness releases its hold, allowing dreams to rise. Simple dreams of familiar things, of fields and animals, of family and food, of the small concerns and satisfactions that make up a life. The village sleeps, wrapped in darkness and silence, held safe by the habits and structures that have protected communities like this for countless generations. The cottages are small, warm islands in the night, families tucked inside, the fire's embers glowing softly, life continuing in its ancient patterns. And we too can let ourselves settle into this deep country darkness, into the peace of a world governed by sun and season, by the simple necessities of food and shelter, by the bonds of family and community. There is nothing complicated here, nothing that requires thought or decision. We can simply rest, letting the quiet of the medieval village wrap around us, letting sleep come as it will, natural and easy as nightfall itself. The stars wheel slowly overhead. The stream flows on. The village dreams, and we can dream with it, safe in the knowledge that morning will come when it comes, that life will continue in its gentle rounds, and that for now there is only rest, only peace, only the soft darkness and the quiet breathing of sleep. Sleep well in the village night.